You're being controlled right now, and you don't even know it. Every reaction you have, every pattern you repeat, every time you lose your center over something small, that's not you. That's something else pulling the strings. Most people spend their lives sleepwalking through the same loops. Different relationship, same pattern, different job, same problem, different city, same you. You promise yourself this time will be different. You've read the books, done the therapy, you know better, and then you do it again. Deep down, you already know something is wrong. Here's the question nobody asks. What if you're not actually in control? Carl Jung spent his life studying this. The invisible forces that hijack your psyche while you think you're steering. He discovered that inside your mind, there are autonomous forces, he called them complexes, that literally take over your consciousness and run the show while you believe you're choosing. That's not a metaphor, that's clinical observation. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact psychological mechanism behind why you sabotage yourself, why you repeat patterns you hate, and why you react in ways that betray everything you claim to value. But here's what makes this different from every self-help video you've ever seen. Jung didn't just identify the problem, he mapped a 3-stage process for breaking free. Most people never make it past stage 1. They stay in the comfortable part, the journaling, the insight, the understanding, and then wonder why nothing changes. There's a case Jung documented, a highly rational patient, completely stuck, until something happened that shouldn't be possible according to everything we understand about cause and effect. I'll tell you that story in a moment, because it reveals something crucial about how transformation actually works. Here's the truth most people never face. You are not the one running your life, but you can be, if you're willing to see what's really pulling the strings. This isn't therapy. This isn't motivation. This is psychological surgery. Let's go deep. Your mind isn't a machine. It's an energy system. And every single day you're choosing where that energy goes. Except you're probably not choosing at all. Every reaction drains you. Every moment people-pleasing steals from you. Every time you bite your tongue, you're giving away a piece of yourself. Jung warned about one-sidedness. When you only live through one part of yourself, the acceptable part, the part that gets approval, you push everything else down. The rage, the wildness, the raw truth. And you think this is maturity, being professional, being good. But this one-sidedness compounds, it builds pressure, it turns toxic. You become rigid without realizing it, or you collapse into numbness, scrolling through life half present. Your vitality dies because you're only living a fraction of yourself. That exhaustion at the end of every day, that's not from working hard. That's from working against yourself. The energy you refuse to acknowledge doesn't disappear. It turns inward, becomes anxiety, depression. That constant feeling, something is fundamentally wrong. Ask yourself, how much energy goes to maintaining an image that isn't even real? The longer you do this, the more vulnerable you become to manipulation, to burnout, to people who sense you can't guard your own power. What you resist doesn't go away. It grows in the dark, and eventually, it forces its way out. You think you're making conscious choices, you're not. Inside your psyche are complexes, autonomous clusters of energy organized around a single theme: rejection, inadequacy, abandonment, control. These aren't just issues, they're independent forces that hijack you. That sudden rage over something small, complex taking the wheel. That relationship pattern you keep repeating, complex. That trigger that makes you lose yourself in seconds, complex. Every complex has an archetypal core, a universal pattern playing out in human psyches since the beginning. Your triggers aren't weaknesses to fix, they're maps to follow. They show you what you've been refusing to integrate. But most people never look at the map. They just keep hitting the same walls. The mechanism? projection. Your ego can't handle certain truths, so it throws them outward, onto other people, onto situations. That person who makes your blood boil, that's you. That quality you can't stand. Your shadow staring back. Jung was clear. Strong emotional reactions, especially hatred, are almost always projections. You're not reacting to them. You're reacting to disowned parts of yourself they're mirroring, and you have no idea you're doing it. These complexes run autonomously. They operate your life while you believe you're steering. But you're not steering. You're being steered. The strings are attached to wounds you've never examined. Shadow work isn't optional spiritual practice, it's survival. But there's a precise process, 3 stages. Stage 1, face it. Name what triggers you. Objectively, like a researcher, write it down. The person, the situation, the behavior that makes you lose your mind. Don't justify, don't explain, just observe. Third-person perspective, creating space between you and the charge. Stage 2, talk to it. Engage in dialogue with the projection. Ask it, why are you here? What do you want from me? Active imagination. Second-person perspective. This will feel strange. Do it anyway. You're confronting the complex, giving it voice, letting it speak. What it says will surprise you. It's not your enemy. It's your disowned power trying to come home. Stage 3. Be it. This is where it gets real, where most people stop. Embody what you rejected. Speak from that place. I am angry. I am ambitious. I am selfish. I am weak. First person. Full ownership. If you don't take action in real life, this is just therapeutic masturbation. Integration without embodiment is worthless. Spiritual bypassing. The proof isn't in your journal. It's in your relationships, your patterns. Do the same conflicts stop repeating? Can you stay centered when you used to lose it? If yes, you've integrated. If no, you're still hiding. Your shadow stops controlling you when you give it conscious, healthy expression. Something is shifting inside you right now. The life you've been building feels hollow. The goals that motivated you seem empty. The identity you've constructed feels like a costume you can't take off. This isn't a crisis, this is a summons. Jung saw life in 2 movements. First phase, building, establishing yourself, creating career, forming relationships, proving yourself. That's necessary. You need a functional ego, a stable place to stand. But at some point that drive starts to suffocate you. What felt like ambition now feels like a cage. Success now feels like performance you can't stop. The second phase demands something different. Not achievement, integration. Not external validation, internal truth. The self, that deeper center, starts calling, loudly. Most people panic. They double down on what worked before. Bigger achievements, more money, better relationships, different cities. Anything to avoid hearing the call. But it doesn't work. The emptiness grows. Life becomes simultaneously perfect and unbearable. Jung called this separation, distancing from who you've been, from expectations you've been carrying, from external definitions of success. This is terrifying. It means letting go. Letting go of approval you've been chasing, the image you've been maintaining, the safety of knowing who you are. But it's not optional. Your psyche will force it. Through restlessness, through breakdown, through a life that looks successful but feels meaningless. The culture won't help. It tells you to keep grinding, keep achieving, but your soul demands something else. Depth, authenticity, wholeness. The question isn't whether this summons will come. It's already here. Will you answer? Or will you spend years fighting your own becoming? Inside you lives your opposite, not your enemy, your other half. Jung called these the Anima and Animus, the unconscious feminine in men, the unconscious masculine in women. Don't get stuck on gender language. This is about psychological wholeness. Your conscious personality is only half the equation. The other half? Everything you didn't develop. Everything you rejected to fit in. This opposite isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to complete you. The Anima and Animus are bridges. They connect your ego to the vast unconscious you can't access directly. They carry messages, reveal what's missing, show you unlived parts of yourself. But if you ignore them, you fragment. Your vitality dies. Your flexibility vanishes. Your capacity for genuine relationship disappears. Men who reject their inner feminine become cold, tyrannical, cut off from emotion. Women who reject their inner masculine become powerless, unable to assert boundaries. This isn't theory. Jung observed this clinically. People who refuse integration become one-sided, rigid, brittle. They lose entire dimensions of experience. The opposite holds everything you need. The sensitivity men call weakness, the assertiveness women call aggression, the creativity that didn't fit, the strength that wasn't allowed. Integration doesn't mean confusion, it means wholeness. Giving voice to disowned parts so they stop sabotaging you from shadows. Your unlived potential lives in the opposite you've been taught to fear. Meet it, listen to it, give it space. Until you do, you're living at half capacity. Reality operates on more than one level. There's cause and effect, logic, the material world, and then something deeper, something that doesn't follow the rules. Jung called it synchronicity, meaningful coincidences, internal events matching external reality, not through causation, through meaning. The famous example, a patient, highly rational, stuck. She describes a dream. Someone gave her a golden scarab beetle. As she speaks, Jung hears tapping on the window. A beetle. A rose chafer, the closest thing to a scarab in that region. He catches it, hands it to her. Internal symbol becomes external reality. Her defenses shatter, breakthrough comes. This is documented clinical observation. It points to a layer of reality that responds to internal psychological states. But most people never experience it. Why? Defensive rationalism. You only accept linear causality, logic, proof, material mechanism. Anything else gets dismissed. Coincidence, confirmation bias. You've cut yourself off from non-rational meaning. There's a prerequisite. You have to integrate your opposite first. Your rigid rational ego can't perceive synchronicity, too narrow, too defended. But a psyche that's integrated both sides, rational and intuitive, logical and symbolic, it recognizes the pattern, sees the bridge between inner and outer. Synchronicity is feedback, confirmation you're aligned with something deeper. The universe isn't random, it's meaningful, responsive, but you can't perceive that locked behind pure logic. Are you paying attention, or too defended to notice when reality tries to communicate? Real transformation requires death, psychological death. Your ego has to die. Everything you think you are, everything you've built identity on, it all has to dissolve. Jung called it the transcendent function. It emerges when you hold two opposites in tension, when you refuse to let either side collapse, your rationality versus emotion, control versus chaos, persona versus shadow. Most people can't hold this tension. Too uncomfortable, they collapse to the safer side. But if you hold it, if you sustain the conflict consciously, something alchemical happens. The tension becomes generative. A third thing emerges. Synthesis. This is transformation, not gradual improvement. Death and rebirth. The process is brutal. Identity dissolves. Certainties crumble. Everything you knew becomes questionable. The dark night of the soul, not metaphor, lived psychological experience. Your ego loses grip. Structures collapse. You descend into confusion, not knowing, absolute vulnerability, and you have to stay there, consciously, without escape. No numbing, no distracting, no spiritual bypassing. You suffer it, fully awake, fully present. This is conscious suffering, the price of transformation. On the other side, rebirth. New consciousness emerges, more expansive, more complete, synthetic. You're not the same person who entered. You've integrated the opposite, transcended the polarity. The depth of transformation equals the intensity of suffering. You can't think through this, can't optimize it, can't make it comfortable. You have to die to who you think you are. Most people refuse. They stay fragmented, anxious, half alive. Are you willing to die to be reborn? Or will you protect a smaller version of yourself forever? There's a shortcut that destroys you. It happens to almost everyone doing deep work. Inflation. You engage the unconscious, touch archetypal energy, have breakthroughs, and instead of integrating with humility, you identify with it. I figured it out. I'm awakened. I see what others can't. Jung called this the mana personality. Your ego swells. You believe you possess special knowledge. You become the person who gets it while everyone else sleeps. This is pseudo-transformation. It looks spiritual, feels powerful, but it's your ego's final defense, the last trick before genuine dissolution. You've absorbed energy without integration. You're inflated, performing enlightenment. Nothing real has changed, just a more sophisticated mask. You skipped the death, avoided the suffering. Now you're trapped in spiritual narcissism. True integration looks different, quiet, unimpressive, grounded. You don't broadcast growth, don't collect followers for validation. You simply live from your center, steadily, authentically, without performance. Jung observed that integrated people show reduction, not expansion. Reduction of symptoms, of reactivity, of the ego's need to be special. You become less interesting to others, but infinitely more real to yourself. The test is simple. Are you posting about your journey, declaring your growth, collecting validation, or quietly dismantling patterns, showing up differently, living from deeper places without needing anyone to notice? Inflation gives feeling of transformation without actual work. Real transformation makes you less special, not more. It strips grandiosity, leaves something simpler. Presence, authenticity, groundedness. Your body is speaking. Are you listening? Chronic tension, unexplained digestive issues, fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. You think these are physical problems needing physical solutions. They're not. Jung understood what Western medicine refuses to. Mind and body aren't separate. When you refuse to process psychological conflict consciously, your body processes it physically. The self tries gentle communication first. Dreams, intuitions, subtle signals. You ignore them. You're busy, functional. No time for feelings. So the volume increases. Physical symptoms. Your body manifests the psychic split you won't address. That stomach knot, not acid reflux. Unprocessed emotion you've been swallowing for years. Those headaches? Not dehydration. Psychic pressure building? Because you refuse to acknowledge what's true. That exhaustion? Not a sleep disorder. Energy drained by internal war you pretend isn't happening. These aren't random glitches, they're communications. Your body screams what your mind won't say. The medical system runs tests, finds nothing, calls it stress, gives pills for symptoms. But symptoms aren't the problem. They're the message. You can't medicate away a message. The solution isn't another supplement protocol. It's shadow work, integration. Finally processing psychological material you've been avoiding. Address the psychic conflict symbolically and consciously. Give it space, voice, movement. Watch physical symptoms dissolve, not because you fixed your body, because you finally listened to what it was trying to tell you. Your body was never broken. just trying to get your attention. How much longer will you make your body carry what your psyche refuses to face? You're not doing this work in isolation. You're embedded in systems, family, culture, social media, echo chambers, and everyone has a vested interest in keeping you asleep. Groups have shadows too, collective shadows. All the darkness a culture refuses to acknowledge gets pushed into collective unconscious. When tension builds, that shadow projects outward, onto other groups, scapegoats, whoever can be designated the problem. This is how societies avoid their own darkness, through mass projection. When you start shadow work, when you own projections, when you refuse collective scapegoating, the system pushes back. Your family calls you selfish, friends say you've changed, culture accuses you of not caring, because you're no longer playing the game, no longer participating in mass projection that keeps everyone comfortable. The collective rewards conformity, punishes depth. Set a boundary, you're difficult. Withdraw from toxic dynamics, you're abandoning people. Refuse to join the outrage, you're privileged. This creates an impossible double bind. Individuation requires breaking from collective norms, but the collective punishes anyone who breaks rank. Most people choose the group. Easier, safer, more validating. They get to feel morally superior pointing at designated enemies. Get to avoid hard work of owning their shadow. But real ethical maturity requires the opposite. Owning your projections. Taking full responsibility for your darkness, refusing collective scapegoating, even when everyone around you participates. This is internal moral authority, acting from your center instead of group consensus. And it's lonely, brutally lonely. You'll be misunderstood, attacked, accused of not caring. But Jung understood something crucial. The individuated person is society's only hope. Because they've done the work the collective refuses. They've integrated their shadow. They don't need to project it. They hold complexity. Resist binary thinking. Act from integrity instead of tribal loyalty. But this path costs everything. Your place in the group. Social validation. Sense of belonging. Will you sacrifice wholeness for comfort of fitting in? Or stand alone in your truth even when it costs you everyone? So here's where we are. You've been living fragmented, controlled by complexes you never named, drained by a life designed to keep you performing. The path forward isn't comfortable, isn't quick. It requires conscious suffering, psychological death, shadow integration. It demands you face your opposite, hold unbearable tension, die to who you think you are. Most people won't do this. They'll stay rigid or collapse. But you have a choice right now. The measure of success isn't impressive, isn't Instagram-worthy. It's reduction, less reactivity, fewer symptoms, less need to prove or perform. You stop projecting darkness, patterns break. You act from your center instead of conditioning. This is individuation, becoming whole, not a destination, a continuous process you commit to, the ultimate freedom. Obeying the law that commands from within, not external rules, not social expectations, not collective morality, your own internal authority, the self speaking through you. No more masks, no more running, no more performing a life that isn't yours. Just you, raw, real, integrated, living from center instead of surface. This path makes you less interesting to others. You're not dramatic, not constantly in crisis, not performing growth. You're just steady, present, real. That's the sign you've done the work. Not inflation, not grandiosity, not spiritual performance, just quiet authority, grounded presence, authentic action. This is what it looks like to cut the strings, to stop being controlled by invisible forces, to finally actually live your own life. Are you ready to meet yourself? The real self beneath the conditioning? Or will you protect a smaller, safer version, wondering why nothing ever feels right? The summons is here. It's been here. The only question is whether you'll answer. Comment below. I choose wholeness. Let's see who's actually ready to cut the strings.